Rev up your engines!
Well, I was just watching a motor.com video where they showed this BMW engine. It's all blown up, broken in pieces. And the guy says exactly what I've been saying for years. Don't listen to the horse manure that these companies tell you. Oh, in case of BMW, you can change your oil every 15,000 miles, right? Well, this guy did, and his engine is a mess now. It exploded. These are the same BMW engines that in Europe, they had to take them out of service for the police because they were blowing up too much. I've always warned people about BMWs anyway. They use plastic timing chain guides. Plastic inside the engine. The oil gets dirty and hot, they get brittle, they break, and then the timing chains fly off, break off, and the engine explodes, and it's goodbye engine, and you might end up getting killed if you're going 70 miles an hour and the engine blows up while you're driving down the road, right? Yet, BMW still sticks by their 15,000 mile oil change suggestions, right? I guess they want to say, look, we're green, you don't have to change your oil as much, you don't waste as much oil. Nonsense, you blow your engine up because it can't take it. I've known this for years. When I was in Houston, there was a BMW dealership, a friend of mine worked there, and he said, we get so many engines there that blow up when they get older because they can't take 15,000 mile oil changes. Builds up dirt, eats them up, and then boom, go the engine. Now, they don't give a crap because normally they would break after the warranty period. Back in those days, the warranty period on BMWs wasn't all that long. It wasn't the longer mileage that they have today. But even today, I tell you at BMW, they tell you we make great machines, right? The factory has a limited warranty of 4 years or 50,000 miles. That's it. 4 years or 50,000 miles. I've seen Toyota engines go 400,000. Their warranty, their engines for 50,000 miles or 4 years. See, and that's why they say, oh, you can change the oil every 15,000 miles, because it isn't going to break the engine till later when it gets 70,000, 80,000, whatever. So they don't care. It's not going to break while it's under warranty, but then when it breaks later, oh, well, it's out of warranty now. You got to pay for a new engine. Oh, why don't you just buy a new BMW, right? Talk about planned obsolescence. I've been warning people about it. You see these other guys know the same thing. They're telling the truth, and they say, look, you can't do it. The engines are going to explode. They do, and BMW isn't going to cover it because you're out of the warranty period. Nimitz says, I have low transmission fluid in my '07 Honda Accord that has 223,000 miles. Can I mix new fluid with the old fluid? Yeah, well, that would be the best thing to do. Now, make sure you use Honda fluid. Hondas are very particular about their transmission fluid. Use Honda fluid. If you changed all the fluid, it might slip like mad because it's so old. So if you just add a little to make it full, that makes the most sense. Fluid makes them shift, and it goes by fluid pressure, which has a lot to do with how much friction the fluid can take. Dirty fluid has more friction. If you changed all that fluid out and put new fluid in, it might slip and not run at all. The best thing to do is indeed get the Honda fluid. It's got to be the Honda OEM fluid. Get the Honda fluid, fill it up, and then drive around, see what happens. You got a lot of miles, almost 250,000 miles, but it's a Honda. It might last quite some more time, but don't drain it and fill it, because then it might slip and it might have all kinds of problems, and then you'll wish you hadn't done anything to it all. Just add it until it's full. Saban says, me and my father want to revive an old truck. We got an old F-350. It sat for 6 to 10 years, but it ran when it was parked then. What should I do? You want to start with the most basic thing. Take all the spark plugs out. Spray a little oil in each of the 8 cylinders. Get a long extension bar in a socket that fits on the front crank on the bottom. Turn the engine over. See if you can turn it over 720 degrees, around 360 and around 360. If you can't, the engine's locked up and you're screwed. You're going to have to tear that engine down and rebuild it. Sits for 6 to 10 years. It could easily have rusted up inside, and you're going to have to rebuild the whole thing. Start there. Now, let's say it spins over fine. Great. Then what you'd want to do is change the engine oil and filter, put a new battery in, see if you can start the thing. Now, you might have to take the gas tank out. It might be full of sludge. Clean that out. At least put a new battery in it, get some starting fluid, take the air filter off, spray some in, crank it, see if at least you can get it running. Then if you get it running and it actually doesn't run all that bad, I'd say you definitely want to clean out the gas tank, put some cleaner in it, change the fuel filter, and then run it for like an hour. And then from there, you start checking the brake fluid, see if that's leaking, change the coolant in the radiator. You've got to check to see if the engine's locked up first, because if it's locked up, it's not even worth fixing. Now, talk about a bureaucratic state. In California now, there is a compensation fund by people who pumped gas in the state of California in certain dates, but you have to apply for it. Now, this is how crazy it is. They don't even tell you how much money you're going to get back, and you got to go through this whole bureaucratic thing of filling out forms and this. But what it turns out that if you purchase gasoline in Southern California between February and November of 2015, that was 9 years ago, right? You may be eligible for a compensation payment because of price manipulation. Well, here's the weird thing. You got to live in California. Oh, it's okay. They can rip off the people visiting, right? But if you live there, you can apply for some money. They don't even say how much money, right? And you're going to jump through a bureaucratic who'll probably get back $20 or something, right? Multiple companies in California were involved in buying and selling the gasoline and secretly working together to inflate fuel prices. Well, like that doesn't happen in the country all the time. You ever notice the prices go up one place, they go off every place else? It's just ridiculous what they say. Oh no, that's just competition. They're not getting together. Baloney. Now, they set aside, they said $50 million to pay people back. We can imagine over that point of time, the millions of gallons of gasoline that were sold, right? So, what are they going to give you back? $1 or $5 or $20 to each person? They don't even mention the money, right? And of course, this is California. They brag about how great they are, right? It's such bureaucratic nonsense. Listen to this. Here's a quote. Remember, this compensation is part of a historic settlement aimed at returning money to Californians who overpaid for gasoline. What a load of horse manure. You're going to get nickels back and heck. Oh, this is just radical. This is so radical. Come off it. Obviously, you can tell it's an election year. They'd only say horse manure like this. Look, we're working to help you. You're going to get money back, money back. They don't mention how much. You got to go through a bureaucratic thing. It's only $50 million for God knows how many millions or hundreds of millions of gallons of gasoline that were sold. So don't expect much back. They'll probably spend more money running the project than they will giving money back to people. Well, if you're thinking about getting a diesel pickup because you do a lot of towing, long distance traveling, Cummins and Ford both have a 6.7 liter diesel engine, but they're radically different. Now, the Cummins is a 6.7 liter diesel engine, but it is a straight six. It's 6 cylinders in a row. Wow, the Ford is also a 6.7 liter diesel engine, but it is a V8 configuration. Now, interestingly enough, the V8 puts out more horsepower, but the Cummins puts out more torque. In terms of which one generally lasts longer these days, I would say it's the Cummins. Now, there's only a couple of trucks that I know of that still use it. It's the big Rams. You get a 25 or 3500 Ram will have a Cummins. Used to have they had a lot of them, but of course, Fiat bought them out and they started putting Italian diesel engines in some of their vehicles. But you can still get them in a 2500 and a 3500 Ram. And as far as I'm concerned, those are the best diesel engines out there in terms of how long they're going to last, not break down. The Power Strokes have a lot of power, but as they age, they have a lot more maintenance problems than the Cummins do. The Cummins realize they don't make their own trucks. Dodge buys them and puts them in the 25 and 3500. Now, Ford makes their Power Stroke diesel engines. Ford used to buy their diesel engines years ago and they decided to make their own. Ford was using diesel engines in the early 1980s, but it wasn't until 1994 they started using their modern Power Stroke. They did it in collaboration with Navistar International. They had a bunch of lawsuits and stuff over problems that they had. Ford builds their own now. But for my money, I'd go with the Cummins, even though I'm not really a Dodge fan. Dodge doesn't make the Cummins engines, they just buy them. Well, if you saw any of that YouTube stuff about the Optimus robots of Elon Musk, well, it seems like it really was a big farce. The robots really weren't doing much of anything because one guy interviewed one of the robots, and here's what happened. Kind of shows you that it isn't the robot, it's somebody talking through a microphone back, right? Now, an artificial intelligence aficionado by the name of Robert Scoble, he went up to the robot and he said, "How much artificial intelligence do you really have?" And he's talking to the robot. He said the robot fidgeted with its fingers. Obviously, somebody's controlling that fidgeting, right? And the robot didn't answer, so the Scoble guy says, "Well, is it some AI or none?" And then after another pause, the robot says back to him, quote, "I would say it might be some. I'm not going to confirm, but it might be some. Well, you know for a fact, that's not the robot talking. That's some guy at a microphone in the other room who's listening and then talking too. I won't confirm it. Only a human would talk like that, right? It's like, well, Elon told us we can't say that it is when it isn't, but we're not going to deny that there isn't some. So what does the robot say? I would say it might be some. I'm not going to confirm, but it might be some. Now talk about a wishy-washy answer, right? You could see the whole thing was fake. Yeah, the robots were there, right? And they even said they move awful slow, but they weren't talking to the people back and forth. There's some clown with a microphone in the back room. I realized during this exhibit that Elon had, the robots were fixed in their positions. You put something in a fixed position. God, what a joke. You might as well say something we had as kids. We had robots like that with remote controls. They had wires out of them in those days. You turn it and the robot would walk and pick up. You could make it say things. And this was in the 1960s, right? I mean, as one person said, hey, these voices seem human. Not one sounds like a machine. If you listen to it, yeah. You can tell there's people in the back room talking. They're trying to pull more shenanigans out on people, trying to sell them these $30,000 robots, right? And of course, knowing Elon, when he always promises, if he ever doesn't make these things, they'll probably be $60,000 or $100,000 a piece. They probably won't do much of anything. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.